Welcome back to the channel, guys. I actually had to skip making a video yesterday because I had to go visit the hospital with my wife for one of her appointments, and that pretty much took up the whole day. So here I am making up for yesterday's video today. Today we're going to talk about how to build a VK1 2.0T Genesis Coupe. That is the 2010 through 2012 Genesis Coupe 2.0 Turbo. This car is slightly different than the BK2 that I covered. The BK2 link will be up here if you wanted to look at that, if that's the car that you have. Definitely check that out instead of this one. I will cover extensively on what we can do on the BK1 2.0s for under $10,000 that will make your car next level. All right, guys, so this is a 12-year-old commercial. This is the first commercial that Hyundai put out for the Genesis Coupe in the US market. Really trying to show off that, it's a rear-wheel drive sports car from Hyundai that you could drift. I wish Hyundai did more commercials like these throughout the years, but it's really hard pressed to find a Genesis Coupe commercial. So yeah, here's a throwback to start off today's video. So the BK1 2.0 Genesis Coupe is made from 2010 through 2012 in the US. In Korea, it was released back in 2009. So technically, it stayed a BK1 model for 3 years before it switched to the BK2 model. The BK1 model was the first ever rear-wheel drive turbo sports car from Hyundai. So it was a good try at what they did. And the 2.0 was a base model or introduction model to the Genesis Coupe family. It started out with a 2.0 turbo, 210 horsepower, 223 foot-pounds of torque, available in 6-speed manual or a 5-speed automatic. 0 to 60 in 7.0. It was standing quarter mile in 15.3. It wasn't a fast car whatsoever. It wasn't even considered a quick car. 7 seconds 0 to 60 is pretty sad. That's a very slow car. But thankfully, because it is a turbocharged vehicle from factory, and because there is still a very substantial amount of aftermarket support for the car, we can bring that time down quite a bit to a more competitive level. So I'm going to go over that with you today. We're going to try to spend under $10,000, including labor, to get the car up to par with some of the sports cars that are available now in 2022. Okay, guys, so here's our website. I'm going to go through the parts list that I'm going to recommend that you use for this particular build. It's focused more on the performance side to bring the car up to par with cars that are out here in 2022. Like I said earlier in the part of the video, the car is pretty weak from factory, but it is a 12-year-old car. Thankfully, we do have plenty of aftermarket that is going to help you boost the level up to the current generation of cars available out there. So let's get started. Let's first go to the Genesis Coupe section. I go over this with everybody that always asks me, what should I do first? What should I do first? First thing you do is you lower the car, okay? Because not only Genesis Coupes, but 98% of the cars out there just come with a huge wheel gap from factory. And one, it looks ugly. Two, once we lower it, you're going to lower the center of gravity. And by lowering the center of gravity, your handling does improve quite significantly. So not only do you get the looks of it, you're going to get performance benefits out of it too. With that said, I'm not going to go with a coilover on this build because we're trying to keep it under a certain amount for the budget. Coilovers really are only required if you need to go lower than what the springs offer you, or if you are planning on tracking the vehicle and you want the adjustability of the coilover system. So if you're just looking for a car that you're going to drive around on the street and have fun with, honestly, lowering springs is about all you need. So we're going to stick with the Eibach Pro Kit. It is one of the most comfortable lowering springs you can buy. So you're going to get a lowered stance out of the car, and you're also going to get some performance benefits out of it. So we've added that. One thing that you notice once you lower the car is that the wheels, the OEM wheels, tend to stick in quite a bit, and it looks like your car literally skipped a leg day at workout. So we can fix that very easily by running some spacers. I would run the 20 millimeters up front and the 25 millimeters in the back. These are priced as a pair, so you will get 2 of the 20 millimeters by adding it to cart and 2 of the 25 millimeters by adding it to cart. So we're going to do that just now. We're going to do that, added the 20 mil, and we're going to add the 25 mil for the rears. So generally speaking, the suspension and the overall clean look of the car is now complete. Now let's focus on the performance side of things. So once we're going to go to the Genesis Coupe category again, and we're going to go and click the 2.0 T BK1 section, 2010 through 2012. Okay, so let's start off by boosting the horsepower. The turbo that comes with the Genesis Coupe 2.0 T BK1 is quite small. We're looking at a TD04 turbo. That belongs on a lawnmower, not a car. So we're going to upgrade that turbo right away. One thing for sure, though, is you really don't have to spend the money here for the ball bearing version of the turbo. If you wanted to, you could, but you don't have to, just because the engine is not cut out to actually take full advantage of the ball bearing AR3 turbo that they offer here. We can actually get pretty similar gains with the journal bearing one, and it will save you $209. Okay. And then for the boost controller, we're going to go with the Greddy ProFec. I'm going to have a link on top of the video that links you to our video about the review of the ProFec electronic boost controller. There are numerous reasons why I recommend this boost controller over anything else, so make sure you check out that video as well. We're going to add the colder spark plugs. With the colder spark plugs, it is a requirement when you are tuning the vehicle or increasing the boost in any way. That is also explained in my another video that I'm going to link up top now that shows you the reasons why a spark plug temperature is very, very important to your build, and by not following directions, you may end up damaging your engine. Okay, so let me add this. Now, in order for the turbo to flow, even if we throw on a bigger turbo, we're still going to need a way to open up the intake. We're going to need a way to open up the exhaust system. And with the BK1, unfortunately, the OEM intercooler is very, very, very poorly designed. So we're going to have to upgrade that as well. So follow along with me. Let's do the intake first. Intake-wise, honestly, any of these will work. I mean, without exception of the drop-in air filter, because that uses a stock intake system, which is not sufficient for a bigger turbo. So AEM, Injen, K&N, they will all work. I personally prefer the AEM or the Injen design on the BK1s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Injen one to our list here. Let's go with the black one, since everything else under the hood will be black. Okay, and then let's go and get some exhaust parts on this car. So we go back to BK1 2.0. We're going to go into exhaust. If you watch my BK2 video, the BK2, I recommend MXP. I'm going to do the same thing here. MXP, hands down, is the best quality exhaust you can buy for the Genesis Coupe, in my opinion. I've been doing this for 12 years now, and yeah, MXP, hands down, is the best exhaust system you can get for these cars. First thing we're going to do is an O2 housing. I just want to remind you, if you do have emissions, you would just want to keep your stock catalytic converter. We've done plenty of turbo upgrades with the OEM catalytic converter in place, and they've still made good power. Obviously, when you upgrade to the O2 housing without a catalytic converter, you are going to have more power, but technically makes you illegal to drive on the street. So the risk is on you when you do that. Let me add the downpipe. Okay, and then we're going to need the test pipe. And then lastly, what we're going to need is the Cat Back from MXP. So this will complete our full MXP exhaust system for the car. So now we have the intake taken care of, we have the exhaust taken care of. Next step is to take care of the intercooler system. Intercooler system wise, the reason the OEM one is so terrible at actually cooling down the intake charges is because it sits right below the radiator and takes on all that heat off the radiator, and it actually heat soaks instead of cooling. So it's a terrible design. They obviously moved away from that design in the BK2 because they realized how terrible that was. So unfortunately, if you have a BK1, we have to address that part. There are so many different intercoolers out for the BK1. Honestly, best bang for your buck, I'm going to have to go with the Mishimoto Race Intercooler. So we're going to add that to cart as well. You can choose between silver, black, and gold. All right. Personally, I think silver looks best in the cars. Just, it really shows off the intercooler. Okay, so we've got everything down right now. On the BK1s, you do have to upgrade the fuel system because the OEM fuel system cannot handle anything past what the stock turbo can do. So now let's go shopping for some fuel. We're going to go into the fuel category here. I would recommend that you definitely go with the Injector Dynamics 1050cc injectors. The only downside to doing injectors is it doesn't run as smooth as OEM injectors ever do. That's just the nature of the beast. When you upgrade injectors to aftermarket, it is significantly bigger, even if you dial it in. I think a good analogy is trying to take a sip of water from like a huge spoon versus a little tiny spoon. It's so much easier to control the amount of water or amount of liquid on a smaller spoon than it is on a larger spoon. So that's kind of the analogy here. The Injector Dynamics 1050cc does require an adapter, so we can actually supply that adapter here by selecting that. Let's add that to cart. That will take care of our fueling need. So thankfully, we don't have to upgrade the fuel pump unless you have high mileage vehicles. So if you have 70, 80,000 miles on the car, I would definitely recommend change the pump out. But like I said, that's optional. With the stock pump, you're supposed to be able to handle the turbo that we're putting on the car with those size injectors. Now, once you have the injectors installed, you're going to have, the turbo, the injectors, with all that, you're going to need a custom dyno tuning. So we're going to add that as well. Let's go to ECU tune, dyno tune, BK1. I'm just going to assume we have a manual for now. Okay. Everything that we've added up to so far could also apply to the automatics. So even if you have an automatic, don't feel like I'm only tending to the manual, guys. It's exactly the same on the automatic so far. Okay, we'll get some pops and bangs. We don't have to do the coiler plugs here because we have already added that into the option of our turbo kit. So no need to pay it twice. Injectors, we have upgraded. Turbo, we have upgraded. There's extra charges to that because there's more work involved in order to tune for things like that. So let me add that to cart. Okay, so what are we at right now? We're at $7,400. So we have a little bit more headroom to go. From here on out, like this pretty much completes everything you need right now to get around 350 to 380 wheel horsepower out of a manual 2.0. With an automatic 2.0, you will see with the same amount of work around 300 wheel torque. Around 300 wheel horsepower. I'm sorry about that. The reason for the big gap in the horsepower range between the manual and the automatic is really just the transmission. The torque converter automatic 5-speed transmission in the Genesis Coupe 2.0 eats up a lot of power. But even with that said, 300 wheel horsepower in a 12-year-old car is very, very decent. So you're going to have plenty of fun with that. And obviously, if you do have the manual version, you'll have even more fun. Now, from here on out, the things I'm going to add is just one thing, and it's for manual guys only. We need to upgrade your clutch system because with all this extra power, your OEM clutch is not going to last. Again, this doesn't apply to the auto guys, obviously, because you guys don't have clutches. So let's go add a clutch. The one that I would recommend, that from our years of experience, we've realized that their stage 2 competition clutch is pretty much the longer lasting performance clutch that you can get. That's not going to be too big of a hit on your pocket. They do have a little bit of a chatter because it does end up replacing your stock dual mass flywheel, which the whole reason for a dual mass is to make sure that the noise level is quietened down as much as possible. And this actually changes it over to a single mass, so you're going to get some noise, but you have to trade off one for the other when it comes to performance. So we're also going to add the throw-out bearing into the mix here. I'm assuming 99% of the cars that are BK1 that's 12 years old, it's going to have some mileage on them. And the throw-out bearing is actually inside the transmission, so you might as well replace it when you have the transmission off. Otherwise, you'll be paying the same amount of labor basically to do the throw-out bearing at a later date. So might as well do it while the clutch is getting done because your trans is coming out anyway. So we're going to add that to cart. Now, with that said, that pretty much completes the list of parts that we need in order to make the BK1 2.0 competitive in the current times. Okay, like I said, I'm going to go over it again. The manuals, you can expect anywhere from 350 to 380 wheel horsepower. Automatics, anywhere from 280 to 300 wheel horsepower. Total, $8,739.97. So with all that said, all these parts should cost you about $1,000 to have it installed at a local shop. That's about a reasonable amount of labor to expect out of it. And you're looking at, what, little under $10,000 when it's all said and done. So obviously, if you have an automatic, it's going to be even less because this $1,300 cost isn't there for you. The cost to install the clutch and flywheel isn't there for you either at the same time. So you can actually take the money that you've saved and put it into something else as well. Okay, so I hope this gives you direction on how to modify the BK1 2.0 turbo engines. And join me on the next one. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. That's it. I got nothing else. See you on the next one, guys.